Hello, designers. This is Rebecca with your Assignment 1 Design Brief and Logo Presentation Critique. I'm going to go through the submission requirements and then I will go through your submissions. I already watched all your videos. Also, on some of the screens with a lot of writing, I'm not going to read everything that you put on your slides out loud. So if you're interested in what your classmate wrote, just pause the video and watch it and read through it that way, just to make this video a little shorter than what it would be if I was to read it out loud. Great, so let's go ahead and get it rolling here. So for this assignment, you were to create a unique brand identity system for either a fictitious traveling circus, carnival, or performer. You were to write a design brief to describe your company's background, its target audience, the concept behind your design goals, and your approach to achieving these goals. You were to incorporate type, with a symbol to create a bold logo design that communicates the essence of the business. And you're to present your design brief and logo in a 5-minute narrated video presentation of your slide deck that you created. So I'm going to skip on down to the assignment requirements checklist. You were to include a 2-page written design brief with all the things that I listed, your logo sketches, your mood board, your 3 top logos in black and white comps, digital comps, and then 1 full color comp. I'm sorry. Ooh, okay. You were to create your final logo in black and white with iterations, your final logo with color and iterations, your final logo with vertical and horizontal orientations, your logo placement examples, your size stipulations, your font variations, 2 merchandise mock-ups with the final logo placed, and then your written reflections. So let's go ahead and jump into it. The presentation is from Ray. Here's Ray's logo thumbnails and awesome mood board. Really cool finds here. These are awesome images. Love them very much. Next time on your mood board, don't be afraid to include a color palette and some fonts as well that you're inspired by. I mean, there are lots of fonts in these ads, but actual fonts that are digital and, built already. And then here's your final logo. When I saw this in your presentation, I literally whispered out loud, "Wow." So that's a really good response. Um, let's keep going just a little bit. I'll come back to this. So here's the black and white version. Really beautiful. I love the tail here. This is so fun. All these very sharp points and these little horns. There's so many neat little details that are just really, really cool. And then this is the color version. I'll come back to this one. And then here's our secondary versions, nice and stacked vertical with like a letter mark, which is very cool. And then these are our placement examples. Really nice. Great. And the size stipulations, excellent. So with the size stipulations, what I recommend including in here, because this will be part of your final piece for this class, is to include the smallest size that these could absolutely be. So, for example, you're going to get small in on screens, and you might get small on a business card or some embroidery, maybe depending on what your people are wearing for this performance. Like your concessions people might have a shirt or a hat, or who knows. But if they had this logo embroidered, what would be the smallest size that you would allow this version to get? And what would be the smallest size you would allow this version to get? And then you also want to address the maximum size that these logos could be. And if there is no maximum, like let's say it can be, on plastered on the side of a building or a billboard or something, then just state there's no maximum size for this logo. Okay, great. Really nice comps. This one here, this color is a little bit different than what I'm seeing in the rest of the color palette, just so you might want to address that. And here are your reflections. Excellent. So let's go back to the logo. Well, let's go back to this real fast. So your logo, you mentioned in your reflections that you have a dark maroon color. Um, and I would say it's almost like a nice blood red. So if you wanted to go with like a purplish third color because you have, well, I guess it would be fourth technically because you have black and then you have a dark red in the middle and then you have a lighter red um, as like an inside stroke. So that would be three colors. If you want to go with the purple, then I would just find a purple within the same family of like a same tonal family as these reds. And so you could do that in a few different ways. You could adjust your sliders in your um, while you're in Illustrator by start with this dark red and then hold down your Shift key, and while you slide your sliders in the color palette yeah, um, in the color panel, and then get it where they start shifting so that you can get more blue in there. So that's one option. The other option is in Photoshop, if you were to bring this into Photoshop and bring up your color picker, then just click on that box that says web colors only once you have the red chosen here. And you'll see like all your colors kind of chunk out so that you have a lot less colors to choose from. And then from there, notice where this color lies in um, that slider area, and then choose a purple from the spectrum below, and then in that same area where the red lied was, choose the purple from that spot. I hope that makes sense. I know it sounds very bizarre. Okay, let's see what else we could do here. The other thing that you can do is, sorry, use the Adobe Colors website, plug this in, and see what you can find for uh, other color suggestions. That would be a very easy, much easier way to do it than what I was just describing. Okay, okay, I already addressed the size stipulations. Excellent. And let me just get to these logos. So I'm going to start here. No, I'm going to start here. So this logo is really gorgeous. The black and white version is really nice because we have beautiful kerning and like tracking. Like the space between all the letters is really lovely. Right here is really nice. I noticed that these lines here are very similar to the weight of the lines in here. What you could do, because when this logo gets small, the contrast between her line weight and the weight of the text is so different. So I do recommend maybe going in and giving, you know how in Victorian art, sometimes they'll give the outside stroke a little thicker of stroke than everything that's on the inside. You could try that. You could try that on just her hair if it starts making her face, less delicate. So just give that a shot. If you hate it, don't go with it. Um, and then on the line quality for these two lines here, I do recommend maybe changing the width of like the inside to taper out and be a little sharper on the outside versus the inside. And then maybe consider chopping this one right here so that the end of the ampersand has more room to breathe. It's not touching that line. Just play with it and see what you think about that. Okay, then on here, if you make those other changes, obviously apply them here. But I want you to notice that when you add this black stroke, we start losing our spacing between the letters. So especially in the and between the and miserable. And so what I would recommend, instead of having your stroke be on the outside of your words, it might even fall on the center. Go into the stroke option by just clicking on the word stroke. And then when you get that little pop up there, make your stroke be on the inside of your letters and see what you think about that. If the inside somehow doesn't look right, then make sure that you have the center as your second option, aligning that stroke to the center of your path. And just make sure that it's not on the outside of your path. The outside is where we really start running into things. I think inside will look great. You might lose, I don't think you'll lose any of this dark red on the inside. Yeah, I think you'll be okay. Then on your ampersand, notice how we're getting some black inside this part here. I think it should be this red. And it looks like your colors switched. So you have a red as your second internal stroke. I'm sorry, you have the dark red as your second internal stroke, but a light red in the middle. And that's just not falling in line with the rest of these things. Same with these here. So flip them all so that they all are this, because it looks really cool with the dark red on the inside and the light red as your inside stroke. Then, on top of that, I do recommend introducing some color to her. So consider adding red, the dark, dark red, in her horns, on her lips, and maybe even her iris color in her eyes. If that looks too insane, by all means, back it off, but I think it'll really give it that little extra special sparkle. Great. Then on this version, which I love, if you change any colors in her, obviously, and if you change the outside stroke of her hair, add that here. And I just think this ampersand could be larger, just a little larger. It's really getting lost there. Okay. If you also change your stroke, see, notice how your stroke is much thinner here than it is the black stroke. It appears to be. Maybe it's not. It's just a smaller letter. Okay. You want your strokes to be exactly the same as your primary logo. So just make sure whatever you do to that other logo, you do it here too. And then if you can get this ampersand a little bigger, that would be really great. Okay, great. Then whatever you change in the logo, make sure you change it in your mockups. And that's it. Great work. Next up is Rebecca. Here are Rebecca's logo sketches and a nice art board, or excuse me, mood board. Great. These are really cool. This one is amazing. And here are our 3 black and white logo comps. Excellent. I think the one that you went with was the strongest of them all. So great work there. And here's the black and white versions. And then a final color one. And you chose the yellow font on a blue background, which I think was also the best because it has such great contrast and those colors look wonderful together. I'm going to come back to these in a minute. And then we have our logo placement examples, excuse me. So for the logo placement examples, consider, like, this is cool for the cover of something, whether it's like a training packet or even a brochure or something like that. But also consider if the logo's smaller for maybe some stationery or something, which logo you might put at the top or, in a corner. Okay. But these are great, but it works out. This is a nice little mock-up there. And then size stipulations, good. That's good. With the size stipulations, while you address them specifically on the merch, which I think is great, consider also what is the absolute minimum size that the horizontal and vertical logos can be. So what's the smallest you'll let them get before they completely lose legibility? And then what is the largest you'll allow them to be? How big can they get? If you have no maximum on how large they can be, like they can be as large as anybody can possibly make them, then just stipulate there is no maximum requirement. Great. And then our font variations. Yeah, I think you did the right thing with the other ones. And then here's our first merch mock-up. That's nice. I'd like you to also consider this color. Is that a color that you want in your branding? Does it go with these 2 colors? This looks great. And I think the black does go because you have black in your logo. This was also smart, not letting this part be black in the banner on a black mug. So that is also another logo variation, okay? And then here are your reflections. So let me go back to the logos themselves. So let me look at the black and white first. Okay, so the black and white, I'm bringing it here because we can see, all of the details. So with this texture in the background, I would like you to consider rotating it so that it looks like it goes from the top to the bottom of this, like that, or rotate it clockwise so it goes completely across diagonally. So it's going from one end of the banner to the other. If we were to straighten this banner out and not have it be wound up, is this gradient going to run along that paper horizontally? And if so, then it will be parallel with this line and this line, right? And parallel with this line and this line. Or will this gradient or these, yes, gradient, will those lines run vertically? And if so, those will be perpendicular with the top line and the bottom line. So they need to rotate either clockwise or counterclockwise so that they're parallel with this or perpendicular with this, with these two edge lines there. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Right now, the way that they're shaded is just like, it's not natural for the way that the paper is turned, if that makes sense to you. I hope it does, because I feel like I'm not saying it very well. All right, then with these, I see that your X line is almost centered. What we want to do with banners is we want our biggest letters to have the same amount of space from the top of the banner than with the bottom of the banner, okay? So I think you need to nudge these up a bit because we are very close. There's no margin down here, but there's a little margin down here, but a bigger margin up here, and same with up here. So I recommend nudging them all up so that you have the same amount of white space above and below the largest letters on the banner. So it's okay if this gap gets larger below the small caps. It'll look better, I promise. Then also pay attention to your space here and here. So this looks good. I like this space that's going on here. And I think this has a nice breathing room here. This one, though, is really tight. So I don't recommend making your text smaller. I think all of this text needs to be the same size. And right now, excuse me, it actually looks like Whirlwind is smaller than the and Troop. Out of all of these, if you were to vary the size of your text, the should be the smallest. But I don't think any of them need to be smaller than the others. I think Whirlwind needs to be bigger to be the same size as this text. If it's not, it doesn't look like it is. And then, so what I recommend doing is expanding the side of this out. Grab that line and pull it out to the side to give Whirlwind the space that it needs to have nice margins on the side of it and to not be distorted. It looks like it's scrunched horizontally a bit. If I look at this text here versus this text here, same with this. This E is scrunched compared to this E. No scrunching, okay? So if you need to extend this out to the side a bit to allow these letters to not be distorted, because that's what we're doing. You're distorting the letters. They all need to match, okay? And not be distorted. Great. Next, once you do that, then we can just apply the color, which is really beautiful. And I think that I like the dark blue background that's on the mug better than this super black background that's here. Just a heads up. So, yeah, well, I don't know. It's really pretty either way. I would just say, though, you need to pick one and move forward with it across all of your designs, okay? For just branding consistency. Excellent. I also see that you're adding a drop shadow here. and that's fine. However, there's no drop shadow, and that's because the drop shadow looks black, and I can see how you'd lose your letters a bit. But you need to take that drop shadow into consideration when you're working with your margins as well. So that might change that even more, okay? You could make your drop shadow less dramatic, uh, so it's not so far away if you need to, but it looks good. All right. Now this one is very distorted. I understand your thought process. We don't need, sorry, I'm just looking here. Yeah. So you basically just grabbed your logo and grabbed the side of the bounding box and scrunched it this way to make it vertical. And then for this one, you did the opposite. You grabbed the top and scrunched it down, maybe stretched it to the side to make it more horizontal. And we cannot distort logos. We cannot distort text. So instead, what you need to do is almost draw a new banner and then place the exact text, your final text that is not distorted on that new banner. So what that would mean is with the vertical version, these heights here of the actual banner would be shorter so that your text, you have that nice spacing from the top and bottom. Overall, your text might shrink in scale, but it's not going to shrink just in width. You know what I mean? Like we can't have this distortion. And then with this one, um, same thing. Like you can stretch the banner wide, but it might require it to be a little taller to fit that text. I don't know. This one is not much different than this one, so I don't think you need that. What you could do is get rid of one of these banners, one of these ribbons, I should say, and just make whirlwind troop like very long, or the whirlwind and then troop almost next to it, but I don't think you need it. I think you just need a vertical version and this regular version. I think that's fine. Okay. Then whatever changes you make sure you apply them to you just update your mockups with the new versions of the logo and make sure that you dial in your colors, your color palette for your branding. Great. Meaning, does this color go? Okay. Excellent. Thank you so much. Next up is Rebecca. Here are Rebecca's logo sketches. And this one here. It's a really great mood board. I love the all of these little logos over here are really cool. That's a great find. This color palette is a little questionable. I'm just not seeing how these magenta colors are really melding with the rest of them. I do love this dark slate blue with your maroon. That's really gorgeous. So I really don't think you need black. I know how crazy is that, but we'll get into it. So I would recommend getting rid of these magentas and consider maybe a lighter blue that's along the same saturation as this red here. Okay, so here are your digital comps. Usually digital comps are cleaner than this. They're more finished. It's something that you will show the client. So I know I did say it's like version one of your comps, but um, they're, uh, that's just because you're not really moving forward with color and, a complete thing. So just a heads up on that. Next, oh, sorry, and here is the final black and white logo. So in this black and white version, notice your spacing that you have available between all your filigrees here and how legible the powerful is. And then here, we start losing this spacing. and this is not as legible. So we'll address that in just a second. What is working nicely, this font is sick. That's a really nice find. This R with that swishy tail is so cool. I love the gestalt of this logo with the banner at the bottom is really nice. And, kind of enclosing things with these horizontal rules is also really nice. And then we'll talk about these in just a second. This is a really fun idea. Good job on the size stipulations. So this is pretty small. I just got to warn you, 160 by 140 pixels. I think it will still be legible, but just know that that's pretty small. So what I'd like you to put for the size stipulations, because you're going to include this in your final presentation for the course, are these your minimum size stipulations? I think they are, since they're tiny. So you want to have the absolute smallest that this logo is allowed to be, whether it's on printed or on a tiny cell phone screen, as well as what is the max size this is allowed to be. If it's allowed to be ginormous and there's no max stipulation, then say that this logo has no maximum size requirements. Then here's our font variations. So I'm just looking here. Okay, so you would consider allowing a giant E. Okay, great. I don't know why we would have any lowercase, all lowercase versions of powerful. Okay, now this is a super fun merch idea. I love it. And when I'm going to ask you to do some changes to your logo, once you're done with that and you update your merch mockup, I do recommend allowing more padding on the top and bottom, some more margin here. It's very close to the edge of the ribbon and it feels uncomfortable. So just make it a little smaller to give yourself some more space. And then this is great. So once I tell you my feedback on this, it is large and in charge on that delicate parasol, but I think it's fine. Just go big, you know what I mean? And then here are the written reflections. So let's jump back to these logos. All right, sorry, just looking at what happened here between where did we start getting, okay, I see it. All right, okay. So having the red drop shadow behind the black, actually it's a gray text, when we get small, it makes it look super blurry. I don't know if I think it's because there's not enough contrast between the two colors since it is a very dark red. So I want to show you what I'm talking about. Notice right here how blurry this looks. And there's nothing blurry about it. I don't think you have a blur on that drop shadow, but it is really messing with my eyes. Notice over here too, the same thing happens when you stroke this with red. It just looks blurry all of a sudden. So this font is so sick. I think you should let it shine by either giving the top text the main color and giving it a dark drop shadow, or there's several layers here. Get rid of get rid of the lines on the second layer that you drop in. That could help tremendously. And then that will also give you more space here between your filigree and the letters. You'll get that back like you have here, okay? Absolutely no stroke on the powerful. This text is too thin, these lines here, for an outside stroke. They start jamming together and it doesn't look Victorian at this line weight. The stroke weight doesn't make it look Victorian, it looks more digital. We also get jammed up here and it's just not great. I guess it gets jammed up here anyways. It's almost like a ligature. Okay, that's fine. But I just want you to save some contrast. So the background color this muted red, first of all, that's not in your color palette. You don't have it listed as your color. If you want to use that, that's fine. Change this font to black, no stroke. And then you'll have enough contrast to make it legible again. If not, just get rid of this pink color. Like make it a white banner here and make with a red background of the banner. I think that's fine. All right, then, so these filigrees are all distorted. They're all squished and stretched. Even the stars are squished and stretched. We don't do any distortion ever in graphic design. Don't do it. Don't do it. So you got to just break that right now. And then instead of just trying to fill in the empty space, you had some real intentional designs going on over here. These make more sense than what's going on in here. These look like they're just, you were just trying to fill in every empty space, and it's just not necessary. So with a star or a sparkle, you want to place those on the end of things, like on a point, right? Like where the light might hit it, somewhere like that. So, and they are usually not black, they're usually white, like the light is like shining, you know what I'm saying? So I would say get rid of all these stars. You could have like one here if you wanted to, or one on the end of the O, whatever you like, but it's usually going to be white. And then with these filigree things, I just recommend not scaling them down, finding some that will fill in the space naturally. You could mirror them, you know what I mean? But get them in there. This one is really nice. Get them in there so that they fill in the space naturally, are not distorted, you know, and are not repeated and just flipped, that kind of thing. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Like these. So these all have, by scaling them down, it gives them different line weight. So that looks inconsistent. And by stretching and squishing, it just doesn't look like the most professional it could possibly look. Excellent. Okay. Then you wanted the P to stand out, which I understand. But this font is so sick. The thing that stands out the most is this beautiful R, and I love it. And I know that this font has a dope P. So if you could just use the P from that font and you make it big and large, it will probably have, let me go back to where you have the font listed in your variations here. It probably has a decorative capital P. It might not be as elaborate as this W or even the S, but because you're scaling it up, I think it will stand out. And if it doesn't, you could grab the end of an R here and throw it onto this P like this. You know what I mean? It's going to change the shape of the logo a bit. It's going to extend it out. So, you know, just decide what you want to do there, but you can cut pieces from one letter and stick them to another letter, and you can unite them using your um, Pathfinder tools and stuff, okay? Or shape builders, either one. All right. Then the one last thing, I know I'm really giving you lots of notes here. On these lines here, these horizontal lines, they have blunt edges here. And I recommend tapering the edges of these lines like these are tapered, or even making the edges round. Consider using your width tool and fattening the center a bit, like just changing the line so it has some variations. Or you could make the one of the ends wider and then go to a thinner shape. You could add little, or you could add little kind of balls to the end, like these little swishes here, you know? So just think about it if you want to. It's not anything too crazy, but it will make these lines look a little less digital. All right, great. So then with this version here, hold on, let me go back. Okay, so it looks like all you did here was kind of squish your logo vertically. I could be wrong. Maybe you stretched it wider. We don't need that. This thing is already a horizontal logo, so no need to change it. Just looking at it. Okay, great. This one here, yeah, whatever change you make to the P, make it to here. And if you get rid of these red lines or whatever you need to get rid of to make it look less blurry when it's smaller, you know, same with these filigrees. The filigrees on here, because it's on an orb, it's okay to be a bit distorted here to kind of show the roundness of the orb, but these touching is just, it needs more space there between the two. And then we don't need all these little star things. This shouldn't be stroked out. If you change this to white, in the regular logo, change it here. Right, excellent, great. And just to let you know, I can easily spend at least an hour going through fonts myself with every logo project I make. So I'm right there with you. Thanks so much, Rebecca. Next up is Derek. Here are Derek's logo sketches and a great mood board. And he said in his presentation that this one was the most influential. This was the second most influential. Excellent. I like seeing a color palette. I like seeing fonts and really great images here, especially for all the mechanical and industrial stuff. Here are the three top iterations. Very fun. And then here's the final logo in black and white and the colored version. And then here are your horizontal versions and then some vertical versions that are a little more simplified. Excellent. So let's go ahead and go back and talk about these logos. So all of these lines, this like, it's so cool. Like the shading is so awesome. And you mentioned in your presentation at the end that like it's kind of, it turned out a bit literal, but I have to say that it's really good, like conceptually. So I don't think that the literalness is a weakness. I think it immediately portrays what you're trying to get at. And then the things that are so cool about it is we have this circus font. So for Marvel, so we know that it's some sort of a circus, right? Some sort of an entertainment, um, an entertainer, or a show. And then here with this font that you chose and how you had them jump the baseline is really fun. It's almost like pistons going up and down. Like it gives me that kind of a sort of an engine feel. We've got the wheel. The wheel does look a bit wooden, you know what I mean? But that's not necessarily bad because we're still in Victorian time. And then, but then we have like this looks more metal here because we've got these kind of bolts on the edge here. The font that you chose for this was really fun because whether it was built for this or not, these little holes also feel like they are like nail holes or screw holes or even rivets in a way. So it all turned out like really great. I think repeating the circus font for the up here was a really good way of balancing that composition. The arcing of this is really beautiful. That's a really fun way to use that warp option. That's perfect there. And then yeah, everything is lovely. Like your spacing, hold on, let me go back. Sorry. Your spacing, like between the top and the bottom of the letters in your banner is really good. It doesn't feel like the banner was, it feels like the banner was created for the text, is what I'm trying to say. Same with this nameplate. The scale of this text is perfect. We have good information hierarchy in this logo. It's all very nicely done. And then the color just enhances it. So we had a strong black and white logo to start, and then adding the colors, the color palette is really pretty. If you wanted this to feel more mechanical and less like a wooden background, then I would go with like a more, gray or black color, but I'm not sure how that's going to work out with the rest of this color palette. I like the warm color palette. It's really nice. Maybe you could make it more brassy, I'm not sure. I don't think you need to change it. It's fine. Over here for this one, you said you wanted to have like an antique feel. What that's called is sepia tone, if you didn't know. And sepia tone is usually just a little bit warmer. Um, like these ones are fairly brown, but it's almost like a copper a copper kind of color. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. This one is very wooden, so you may consider warming this up a little bit, adding a little more orange to that color, but you don't have to. Uh, okay, and then these are really fun variations. Nothing was lost in these variations. I don't see any distortion, which I really appreciate. This one, okay, you got the red up here. Never mind, we're good. Okay, great. Excellent. Okay, good. That's a cool stipulation. And then these are perfect. This is exactly how I want to see everything. Like these are the minimum that they can be. And this is confusing over here. So what I'd recommend doing is maybe putting a red circle with a slash through it. Like do not let it get this small unless this is, I'm sorry, is this the digital one? No, this says pixels here. So yeah, I want you to say like, this is why we don't go this small because you can't read it. You know what I mean? Unless these are the print versions and this is the size they're going to be. If so, these are too small. Okay. Then over here we've got our font variations. Looks good. Looks great. Um, I don't think any of these are good enough. Maybe this one, but like you said, I think they all kind of start giving it a different feel. This one could be okay for your body copy, but I think Stardo, Stencil, and Zabars are not right for the rest of the branding. Okay, this turned out really nice. I love the gears as a pattern. The color palette looks fantastic. Nice contrast. It looks awesome. Really cool. Same with this one. Excellent. And this is a really wonderful idea. Looks awesome. Great mock-ups. Really fun. Great work. Thank you so much. Next up is Joey. All right, here are Joey's thumbnails. Excellent. And a really great mood board. This is awesome. So much good stuff here. Excellent. All right. And then here are the top 3 logos and the final design iterations. And then here are the color iterations and the final logo. And then we have our logo placement examples, size stipulations, and the fonts. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to this logo before we go on any further. So I think that the structure of this logo is really cool. The sun in the back, this beautiful banner, and then this neat little filigree down here is really awesome. I do have to say that I think this logo is more Victorian than this one. And the boldness of this logo really competes with the letters. So I do like this version better. If you wanted the curliness of the rays, then I would take the curliness of these letters, like these things here, and maybe consider applying that to the rays, you know what I'm saying, somehow, but I don't think it needs it. Yeah, okay. I'm not crazy about like the second stroke inside the sun. This sun feels a little bit more psychedelic to me. than this one here. And while psychedelic is inspired by uh, like Art Nouveau, which is also overlaps some Victorian stuff, this one just feels like it's less competitive and it just kind of feels like it fits in more. This feels like a secondary, not secondary, but like it's from a whole different logo or design. This all feels way more cohesive to me. Okay, so with that being said, um, I can see that you did manipulate this L because in the font itself, the L dips way down, but I think that you can manipulate it even more. I'm sorry, I'm jumping the wrong direction here. I think you can manipulate it even more. I know it's not easy, but it would be cool if this L kind of dipped down a bit to sort of mimic this shape and then went up like this on this side. So if you would consider playing with that a bit, I think that you'll be happy with it. And then, easy for me to say, right? And then, let's see, down here in the circus part, let me just zoom in on that if I can, if Acrobat will let me. Sorry about that. Really, a little bit. Nope, it's not gonna let me. Okay, in the circus part, come on, there we go. Ciao. Okay, right here. The IRCUS is just taking up a bit too much space. So I like the size of the C and how it's falling in here. But I do recommend just decreasing these a little bit, at least their height, so that, and don't grab these letters and squish them down. You're going to adjust their height in the character panel. In the more options area, you'll see an area for the height of the actual letters. And then by doing that, that's not going to make them distorted and it will keep their, their weight basically the same as the C. So if you could do that so that these guys aren't touching so much and there's just a little bit more breathing room, I think that would be really nice. I like the width of it, just the height of these letters is too much, just not enough breathing room. Okay, so yeah, so if your L can kind of go whoop, a little more floopy to mimic this and to give us more breathing room on the bottom over here with the tail of the L, and then a little more space there. And I really like this sun compared to this sun. If you don't want to change your sun, I respect it. Okay. Um, then this color here, I just don't really see it in your palette at all. Uh, oh yeah, I'm sorry, never mind. These are just iterations. Okay, great. So yeah, these are great. I'm just trying to look for that teal. Okay, I see you used it here. Got it. Okay, great. Excellent. I don't think you need this version. I think the color looks great. So when you update your logo, just make sure you update your mock-ups. But these are really fun ideas and it looks really nice in the gold. That's great. Excellent. Easy. Thanks so much. All right, next up is Deanne. Nope, there we go. Okay, excellent. All right, this is a really cool mood board. The styles that you chose are also delicate and very ornate, obviously, but they're just like, they all have these very, very delicate features, and it's really nice. It's a really nice mood board. In the future, I recommend also including some color, like color palette ideas and fonts. And then here is your first of the three digital logo comps. Just doing some experimenting. And then this is the final black and white version, which turned out really nice. And the final color versions. And then here are the vertical and horizontal orientations, and we'll get back to these in a minute. Then we have some logo placement samples. And so I will jump back to the logo. Okay, so what I would like you to do is this image is awesome. It's just very, very gray. We can see it here. So when we have a photo that is very gray, our eyes kind of glaze over it. It just almost becomes like just a gray mass on the page. So I'd like you to take this photo into Photoshop, go to your curves panel, and in the curves panel, there is a white eyedropper. Grab that white eyedropper and click on something that is supposed to be one of the whitest things in this photo. So maybe this stripe here, maybe even a white highlight on her blouse. Click on that and then you'll just see this whole image change in contrast. If it's too blown out, pick a different white area. If it's not contrasty enough, then choose a different white area. So that is the best way to get perfect contrast in an image in Photoshop. Then that's using the white eyedropper in the curves panel. So then after you do that, I would like you to save a version of that black and white one for this part here. And then if you'd like to, you can try using the duo, I think it's the duochrome option. And so there's a panel for it. And what you could do with that is the dark parts in this photo, the parts that are black, will be like that very dark blue that you like, or even just a darker version of this blue. And then the light areas can be this gold color, like, or a gold color. And so you can do like a duotone, that's what it is, duotone process, where you have golds as the lightest and dark, dark blues as your darkest. So there's actually no black and white in the image anymore. It's just gold and blue, and it's a very cool effect. And see if you like that. And then if you don't like that, just use your very contrasty black and white version in this logo. But I'm not crazy about the black and white in this logo because there's no other black in the logo. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm saying, well, I guess this one has a drop shadow. So, it's sort of spreading it there. Yeah. The other thing I was going to say is in this logo, this big gold gap here, you might consider taking a color from the photo and putting it over here to kind of balance it out a little bit more. And same with here too. This just is like a big mass of color. The other thing you can do is do some hatching in this part to break up this color. So it would be white with this color kind of hatched lines here too, if you wanted to. Okay, excellent. All right. But what's really cool about this logo are all of these little ornate details. Very beautiful the way you put them together. You'd mentioned in your reflections that you figured out that if you just kind of place them intentionally, it's just a matter of like organizing them, that it ends up being successful. And I totally agree. I don't see much distortion in here. There's maybe a little bit of distortion in here, but it's so tiny that it's not distracting, like it looks super squished or anything. This looks really nice. The placement, what I love about these types of Victorian logos are all these little uh, almost like little crowns on things, or it's just really cool. It's really cool. So really nice. The textile looks good too. One thing, the mage part, sorry, I'm just looking at the two, comparing them a little bit. I feel like this M is a little close to this top line here. And then this G gets a little close here. So I'm not sure why this shifted. This M doesn't look too close on this side, but it looks very close here. And then this G doesn't look too bad, but this one. So I think you maybe have a drop shadow on this one, but then a stroke up here or something. I'm not sure what happened, but I think that work could use a little more space on that part of the band. Everything else looks awesome. Okay. Then these are really great iterations. So whatever you end up applying to her photo, and if you change the background here and stuff and the adjust the word mage, then just make sure you apply those all in the vertical version. But the vertical version turned out really nice. It's really great. And it was as easy as just stacking the two, it kind of looks like, but um, it looks great. Then, uh, yeah, so whatever changes you make to your logo, just apply them here. Great. Okay, this looks good. Good, good job. So, perfect. So then you have your minimum stipulations. If you don't have any maximum size stipulations, then just state that in your final presentation. There's no maximum stipulations, okay? And then this is such a good font pairing. I love it so much. I've used it myself. I think it's really cool. So wonderful work there. This is also a nice option for a third header. Um, yeah, so really great font pairing. This looks really nice on this popcorn bucket. I like the scale of this filigree and this pattern with the logo. The spacing here is really nice, and that dark blue background is gorgeous. This gets a little bit squooshed, in my opinion. So I recommend, while I love a logo as large as possible, there's not enough breathing room here. The breathing room here is really nice. So, oops, sorry. So I think just bringing your scale down just a hair, and making sure that you have the same amount of space between here and here as you have here and here, will be really helpful. And then, obviously update your logo if you make changes to it. Great. Oh, but what I do like about this, I like this I like the lighter text version on the dark background. It makes it the contrast makes it so easy to read. It's really nice. All right. Thanks so much.